Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Earlier this week, Gillette decided to launch an ad that would show how woke the brand was by addressing so-called toxic masculinity. And this ad, which was created by a white feminist, is supposed to ask the question, is this the best a man can be, while showing us images of troubled men as audio plays talking about things like the Me Too movement. Then cuts away to show a boy being chased by a group of bullies, then showing us pictures of boys participating in very, very violent and reckless behavior. And the whole tone of this ad, which asks, is this the best a man can be, literally promotes misandry all throughout the whole piece. So the entire theme of this ad is nothing but misandry, and the whole ad is nothing more than pure propaganda designed to promote the hatred of men, the hatred of male behavior, and the hatred of being a man. And what these feminists want to promote as the ideal of a so-called good man in this ad, it just is quite troubling, because what many feminists want your sons to be are these kinder, gentler, softer beta males. Males who would be completely submissive to women and completely submissive to female authority figures. Now, as a man who's been studying men's issues for over 15 years and has studied the so-called nice guy that feminists helped socially engineer over 50 years ago, I can tell you that the so-called softer, kinder, gentler male that feminists want to create, he's usually the guy participating in many of the behaviors that we saw in that ad. So most of the bullying that you see, most of the harassment that you see, most of the sexual violence that you see, most of the criminal behavior you see, most of that behavior doesn't come from boys who were raised with fathers in their lives. No, most of that behavior comes from single mothers and the sons that they raise in single mother households. So when I look at this whole ad talking about Gillette, the best a man can be, no, the reason why we have such bad men in society is due to 50 years of feminism telling women that they were strong and independent and did not need a man, and telling women they could raise a boy to be a man without a father in his life. So many of the behaviors that I see in society that these boys participate in, like bullying, like stalking and harassing men, like threatening men, like harassing them, and participating in criminal behaviors. Again, all those behaviors all come from boys who were raised in single mother households. But you won't see that point made in an ad like this one talking about Gillette, the best a man can be, because the feminist wants to omit that data because it incriminates her and incriminates her whole and refutes her entire argument regarding the whole thing about toxic masculinity. Actual toxic masculinity comes from boys who are raised in households with single mothers. Toxic masculinity does not come from a home with a boy with a father in his life and male figures, because when it comes down to boys who are raised with fathers and male figures, these boys learn male life skills, they learn male social skills, and they learn how to conduct themselves appropriately as men, because that father is going to take that boy to the side, his older brothers are going to take him to the side, and they're going to teach him the male life skills he needs to survive in the real world. So there's going to be a man there to teach him about actual masculinity, not the toxic masculinity boys learn in places like single mother households. Because in single mother households, what happens is the boy learns a feminine way to behave and he learns female life skills. And because he's learned female life skills and radiates feminine energy, this is why you have toxic masculinity. Again, actual toxic masculinity comes from single mother households, which either come from women raising boys out of wedlock, or raising boys in divorced households, or raising boys in homes with these beta male fathers that feminists help socially engineer. That's how we get toxic masculinity. But Gillette doesn't seem to understand the whole concept of toxic masculinity. And what's really completely backwards is, instead of getting an objective advertising agency to go out here and address the whole concept of toxic masculinity, what they did was go out here and get a feminist to go out here and create this ad, which was nothing more than pure propaganda meant to try to promote and socially engineer an idea about men that just isn't true. And what's happening to Gillette right now is the brand is facing a major backlash as related to this whole feminist propaganda they tried to push, because the core customer base of Gillette was primarily men like myself. It's men like myself who were going out here and buying Gillette razors, because in order for us to go to work, we need to shave our faces. And sometimes some of us, because we're into manscaping and grooming, we like to shave other parts of our body too. So we were buying things like Gillette's razors, Gillette's shave cream, and Gillette other products. And Gillette just alienated its core customer base in an effort to try to appease women who do not go out here and buy the core of Gillette's products. So this was one of the most boneheaded advertising campaigns ever produced. And you have to wonder, what were the executives at Gillette thinking going out here and having this feminist create an ad about a product that is targeted towards men? Now, I understand people want to appear enlightened regarding things like the Me Too movement, but when it comes down to the Me Too movement, it's clear to me Gillette needed to do a lot more research, because when I take a critical look at the Me Too movement and so-called toxic masculinity, I see through the veil of the gimmicks that they are trying to push regarding these narratives, because the Me Too movement is not about stopping sexual harassment or sexual assault. It is all about old, faded, former casting couch women and side pieces trying to get resources from the men they had relationships with to take care of themselves in their old age. So a lot of these women, they were on the casting couch, they were Hollywood side pieces, and now that they have aged out of the entertainment industry and younger women are now replacing them, they want to try to revise history to make themselves out to be victims. And that's why we have the Me Too movement. It wasn't the result of so-called toxic masculinity. It was the result of women who were just as complicit with these men. But again, Gillette's advertising agency, because it was feminist, wants to omit those details in order to present this misandristic narrative regarding so-called toxic masculinity. The same toxic masculinity which was, again, created by single mothers, because in order for a boy to be healthy, he needs both masculine and feminine energy in a two-parent household. And most boys are not getting that because in either a single mother household, a divorced household, or a household with a beta male father, what is happening is these boys are not getting that masculine energy. So toxic masculinity comes from feminists trying to socially engineer this kinder, gentler, softer male, a male just like your Elliot Rodger, who participated in the La Isla Vista massacre, your males like your Dylan Roof, who murdered all those people in that church, and males like your Stephen Paddock, who went out of his way to murder over 56 people at that concert in Las Vegas. Those are your toxic males, and almost every one of them comes from a single mother household. But we're told that boys need to be better and that men need to be better, and the reason why these men are messed up again is due to 50 years of feminism and 50 years of propaganda like the ones featured in this ad talking about the best a man can be. In order for a man to be the very best, he needs a foundation with a father in the home. And this is something I talk about in depth in my book, The Man Crisis, because the reason why we have a man crisis here in America is because a lot of these boys are growing up to become these kinder, gentler, more softer, more sensitive men. And it's these kinder, gentler, more softer, more sensitive men who are falling apart all over the United States and the West. And these men are falling apart because they do not have the male life skills, they do not have the male social skills, and they do not have the male survival skills in order to navigate the world. And they're trying to navigate the world from a feminine perspective, not understanding that if you try to use female approaches as a man, they just don't work. And what happens is, because these boys don't have been taught that being male is bad, they can't get the male life skills from men in the community like myself, because they have been taught over 50 years that men are the enemy, men are dangerous, and that being male is bad. This is the propaganda that has been pushed throughout the media for the last 50 years, and you can easily see it in books like Alice Walker's The Color Purple and the movie adaptation of The Color Purple. You can see it in movies like Lee Daniels' Precious, and you can even see it in numerous sitcoms where they always showed you the good guy or the nice guy being this beta male who was always submissive and supportive of the woman, this passive man who always stood in the back, and this passive man who always waited patiently for the girl of his dreams to realize that he was the one who was right for them. But that's not the way the world works. The way the world works is men have to go out here and they have to be aggressive, they have to be competitive, and that's how a man survives, because only a man can take care of himself. And in order for a man to be the best he can be, he has to be competitive, he has to be assertive, and in some cases he has to be aggressive. So he has to go out here and do things for himself, because no one is going to do them for him. So most of these women, like these feminists who created this ad, they come from a gynocentric view. They're used to men catering and caring for them, submitting and deferring to them, and they want to promote this as the ideal for a boy, not understanding that a boy needs a completely different set of life skills and survival skills in order to be a man. I looked at one part of this ad where they show the guy getting ready to approach a woman, and this other beta male comes over and tells him no, not to do that. And that part of the ad was completely ridiculous, because women want a man to go up and approach them, because it shows them confidence and it shows them that this man is ready to take the lead in any given situation. And that's what women want in a man, But feminists want to tell you this is not what they want in a man, and that they don't want you to be that type of guy. They want you to be the nice guy they have been pushing in all of those 1980s John Hughes films and shows like Dawson's Creek. Guys who are so passive and unassuming that women don't really regard them. And if guys are like that, what's going to happen is you have all these women out here asking the question, well, where have all the good men gone? Well, there are no good men because women did not let boys have their fathers in their life due to 50 years of feminism and crap propaganda ads like this. And I believe that the backlash that Gillette gets from this, created from supporting these feminists, is well deserved. And I won't be buying any more Gillette products in the future because if they believe the best a man can be is a beta male, then I have no problem not supporting their products. I know for a fact from growing up in the South Bronx among so many beta males who bullied and harassed me that this is not the best a man can be, and that these men were made worse because of the single mother households they came out of. And I know for a fact from experience that the toxic masculinity that these boys participated in was primarily a result of these boys growing up without fathers and growing up believing ideas that their single mothers told them about men and told them about relationships and told them about life. And that's the reason why we have toxic masculinity here in America and the West, because these boys never had any sort of male figures to teach them about being a man. That's what Gillette doesn't understand about so-called toxic masculinity, and that's why they're going to go woke, get broke, because in their attempt to show how woke they were, they slapped every man in America and the West in the face by going along with a group of feminists and promoting their extremist narrative regarding men. And that was a completely foolish notion when you think about it, because if your core customer base is men, you would think you want to say that in order for a man to be the best he can be, he should be a father to his children, a leader in his community, and just be the type of man who every man regards and respects. There is no need to push identity politics when you're selling a product. What you want to do is just go out here and sell your product to your core audience. And this is something Gillette just didn't understand. You don't need to go for the woke crowd, because when it comes down to the so-called woke crowd, they are usually broke. Usually most of these people are living 10 to an apartment, and usually most of them don't shave because most of them are scavengers. So just like Marvel Comics is learning right now, the SJW crowd, the far leftist crowd, is not a crowd that a business needs to target, because in most cases, most of these people, they don't work, they don't care, and they don't want to support your products. All they want to do is push their message at your expense, and when they finish pushing their message, all you do is wind up taking a loss at the end of the day. And the reason why you take a loss at the end of the day is because these people, again, they don't spend any money on anything like Marvel Comics learned a couple of years ago. All they do is pirate comics. All they do is scavenge at the bottom of the world, and they want to make everybody miserable in their company so that they can be the top dog at the bottom of the world. They want to rule over ashes, and they want to ruin everybody's life, and that's what they're exactly doing right now, because I will never buy another Gillette product as long as I live, because if Gillette believes that, again, that the best a man can be is a beta male, then I have no problem not ever buying their products again, because I know the best a man can be is better than a beta male, and I know that the best a man can be is to be a man who is strong, a man who is assertive, a man who is competitive, and a man ready to take on the challenges of the world. And that's a man who will always rise to the occasion and take himself to the next level, because that man knows better than to get woke, because if you get woke, you're guaranteed to go broke, just like Gillette. If you'd like to learn more about actual toxic masculinity, you can pick up my new book, The Man Crisis. In that book, I go in depth telling you about why we have a crisis related to men here in America and the foundations of that toxic masculinity and that crisis related to men here in America. And this book is essential reading for any man who wants to learn about the issues related to men. And you can pick it up by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.